Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here tonight with a good old review of none other than WrestleMania 19. Honestly, WrestleMania 19 came at a time when I was getting out of professional wrestling. I do remember the whole Rock versus Hurricane thing that was leading up until WrestleMania on Monday Night Raw, and I think that was the Go Home Raw for WrestleMania 19, but I don't remember really caring about what happened at WrestleMania. I don't even remember if I ever really got the review or read a review or what. All I know is that I didn't see the show for years until I got back into the world of professional wrestling. I just really wasn't into a lot of things that was going down around this time. I wasn't watching SmackDown at all, so I was pretty much missing out on half of the brand. Triple H versus Booker T for the World Heavyweight Championship didn't interest me at all. I don't know why. Maybe because the feud was taking place on SmackDown. I didn't care about Hogan versus Vince. I didn't really know anything about Brock versus Angle other than I thought it was going to be a big match, but obviously it didn't really bring me to the dance to want to watch this. It's funny, sitting here now looking over the card for WrestleMania 19, it looks like a pretty SmackDown heavy show. So with me not watching SmackDown at the time, it shows you that I guess I didn't really know anything about WrestleMania, and that's possibly why I didn't care. I've talked about this 1,000 times. In the year 2003, when Scott Steiner came in to WWE, it just sort of turned me off. The whole feud between him and Triple H just really got me thinking about what I could be doing with my Monday nights instead of watching wrestling, and they let me down too many times in a row, and I walked away. I don't know why. I'm not at that point with watching wrestling now, but that's one of the reasons why I didn't know anything about this card for years. But I watched it just the other day. Show opens with Matt Hardy against Rey Mysterio. Very good, really good cruiserweight match. It's honestly a little bit too short, with Rey Mysterio hitting the 619 and then coming in for the West Coast Pop, and Matt Hardy was able to turn that into a roll-up and escaped with the championship and getting a win over Rey Mysterio. It's funny, looking back to the early days of Rey Mysterio, it wouldn't be for what, I guess 3 years, that they would really start to, hey, this Mysterio guy is actually worth something, and he would start having some good matches, but they just never really thought about using him. They just basically got tired of everyone in the locker room basically saying, I want to work with this guy, I want to work with this guy, so they just brought him in and they featured him, but they jobbed him out a lot. He never really wins a lot of matches. It's funny. From there, we go to a very surprised Undertaker coming out in the second match. This was supposed to be a tag match, but during Sunday Night Heat, we had Big Show and A-Train jump Nathan Jones in the shower. I don't know why they had a camera in there. I don't know why Nathan Jones was in the shower with his clothes on, but it is what it is. He got jumped in there. Maybe he was in there buying drugs or something like that, and they took advantage of him. It's funny to look back on this because if you were watching at the time, Nathan Jones was supposed to be the next Undertaker. There's even specials on the bonus features about Undertaker talking about how he was openly thinking about retirement before WrestleMania 19, and that show actually, the ovation when he came out on stage is what sort of changed his mind, and that's why he's still wrestling with us here today. But Undertaker has to go out there in a 2-on-1 match against Big Show and A-Train. This match is honestly nothing, but Jones comes running down to make the save at the end. Undertaker ends up getting the win, and he gets number 11 in the streak. Nathan Jones would go on I can't remember if it was a UK tour or an Australian tour. One thing leads to another, and he just was fucking done with wrestling. He literally packed his bags, went home, and has never been seen from in the world of professional wrestling. This guy never showed up in TNA, never showed up in any independent company. He just was done. People have said that it's due to him getting bullied in the back by guys like JBL. I don't think we've ever really got a real answer other than just the guys protecting the business and saying that he didn't have what it takes and he's gone. And that's basically all you have to know about it. From there, we go to a pretty fun triple threat match. Trish Stratus gets the win over Victoria and Jazz. Stevie Richards was on the outside in Victoria's corner. They were like a couple at the time. He actually tries to hit Trish Stratus with the chair shot to the head. Very surprised, but Stevie Richards, in his sort of comedic fashion, misses the chair, hits the rope, bounces back. I think Trish Stratus hits it with a super kick. And knocks Stevie out. I thought that was pretty fun, but Trish Stratus gets the win and rolls on as the new champion in the women's division. Very fun tag match. We have Team Angle going up against Chris Benoit and Rhino. We have Rhino hit Charlie Haas. The Los Guerreros were in this as well, but Rhino hits Gore, and Shelton Benjamin very smartly gets a blind tag, gets into the ring, and rolls him up for a 1-2-3. And Rhino doesn't even really know what hit him. It just all of a sudden it's gone. This is during like that glory time when SmackDown was really being put over by a lot of tag team wrestling. It was like, you had Los Guerreros, you had Team Angle, you had teams like Chris Benoit. I think Jericho was in there, Rhino filled in for him. But really, really fun time in SmackDown. A lot of the good SmackDowns from this era is what I like to go back and watch on the WWE Network. From there, we definitely go to what is the match of the night. Really good wrestling match. Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho. Very surprisingly, Shawn Michaels or Chris Jericho doesn't win this with his finisher. Michaels really just rolls up Jericho and gets the 1-2-3. And the match is so good that Chris Jericho, as a heel, pulls in Shawn Michaels to give him a sign of respect with a handshake. But as the handshake and the hug is going down, Jericho gives Michaels a shot to the cojones, right in the balls, leaving him laying, and just walks out on him. This match is really good. Possibly very funny to say this is possibly the best match they ever had, even though they would go on to have a very good feud years down the road when Jericho, he would be inside of the feud and then also become world heavyweight champion, and that's an awesome ladder match over it. But Jericho ended up punching Michaels' wife, and I can't remember what year that was, possibly 2008, maybe 2009. But it's funny that this is their best match, but the feud that they would have down the road would blow this out of the water. Really crazy stuff. From there we go to Triple H beating Booker T. Nothing really here to see. Nothing really that spectacular. It is what it is. People have said that Booker T should have won the championship here and sort of became a new star, and Triple H buried him. I don't know. I didn't see it. At the time, I loved Triple H, and Booker T as a champion on Monday Night Raw, to me, honestly, would have just been nothing. I mean, it would have been just no star power at all in my book. From there, we go to Hogan versus Vince. Hogan versus Vince. A really, really, really good match. Out of the middle of nowhere, Roddy Piper returns. And he comes into there and he ends up hitting Hogan with a lead pipe. He teases that he's going to hit Vince. He ends up going over and hitting Hogan, which would be the start of a feud between Piper and Hogan on SmackDown. But I asked Piper about this when I met him at a convention here in California. And basically, I just told him, the surprise at WrestleMania was possibly one of the biggest surprises of all time. I mean, especially when it comes to WrestleMania, people always seem to know what's going to happen with big returns. It's in the news everywhere. People are talking about it months ahead of time before it even happens. But when Piper came back, I believe it was his first WrestleMania appearance since he had the match with Goldust at, I believe, WrestleMania 12, the Hollywood Backlot Brawl. And no one really said anything. And Piper said that he agreed to do it with Vince, and he wanted to do it really old school. So he didn't even fly in until Seattle, until the WrestleMania had already started, so nobody would know he would be there. He drove himself into the arena, really just sort of hung around backstage and didn't really converse with Hogan, didn't converse with Vince, didn't really, talk to anybody, so nobody would think anybody was up, and he just slowly made his way down to the ring wearing a trench coat, jumped in the ring. Nobody really knew who it was until he took it off, and you can see the Hot Rod Roddy Piper shirt. Really cool. What really surprises me is that this was a street fight, And the rules was if Hogan had lost, Hogan would be forced to retire because Vince was trying to say that he was the true power behind the WWF. It wasn't Hulkamania that created the WWF and WrestleMania and everything. It was Vince McMahon that created Hulk Hogan, who should get all the credit for everything that went down in wrestling. But the stipulation was if Hogan lost, he'd have to retire. Hogan ends up getting the win, and then once he gets the win, you go to SmackDown, which would be on, I believe, Thursday. It might have been on Friday at the time. I'm not 100% sure, but whatever it is. The same week as WrestleMania. You're getting the payoff. Vince comes out and bans Hulk Hogan from SmackDown. Doesn't make him retire, just says he can't be on SmackDown anymore. And Hogan doesn't go to Raw. Hogan doesn't leave. Hogan just comes out as Mr. America. And this feud would go on for a few months until Hogan just got fed up with what was going on. And no, I don't think he really wanted to wrestle under a mask, and he didn't really know where it was going. And they had a SmackDown, I believe it was in Madison Square Garden, I'm not sure. And during the match, Hogan kept on taking the mask off to show the crowd who he was, trying to get himself out of the storyline, trying to be smart. But once he got to the back, Vince fired him, basically said, we're done with you. We don't need you anymore. They were able to save the match with editing and actually show that Hogan wasn't showing his face, I believe. Or maybe they did. I can't really remember. And it is what it is. I mean, weird that you would sort of have a big stipulation for WrestleMania, and even though the guy wins, you just have the payoff right there where you basically get rid of him. Then we go to The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is a very fun match. This is a lot like when I was talking about Undertaker versus Ric Flair. Everybody knows the Mania of Mania documentary where Stone Cold Steve Austin was having a lot of problems. Everyone knew, well, nobody knew that this was going to be his last match, but he did, and he just wanted to get through it, basically. But, a few minutes into this match, you sort of notice that they're not moving at Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin normal pace, and you get into it. And it's a fun match. I mean, you see The Rock put on Stone Cold Steve Austin's vest and all sorts of stuff. The end of it comes with Rock hitting at people's elbow. Stone Cold Steve Austin kicks out. So The Rock does what he has to do, and he ends up giving Stone Cold Steve Austin, I believe, 3 rock bottoms in a row. Finally pinning Stone Cold, finally getting that win that he wasn't able to get at WrestleMania 14. No, that was Michaels. WrestleMania 15 and WrestleMania 17. Finally able to get that win. And then we go to an awesome match. Brock versus Kurt Angle. What can you say about this match other than this is perfect? Until the ending. Until the ending. Yeah. Brock had wowed people through his training, through developmental, being able to do a shooting star press off the top rope. And for some reason, somebody told him to do the move at WrestleMania because, Brock had been champion and he beat Rock at SummerSlam 02 and he held it for a while. But in a lot of people's eyes, you're not really the guy of the company until you win the belt at WrestleMania in the main event. And, that's what Cena did. It's probably what Roman Reigns is going to do. But Brock got that moment wrestling against Kurt Angle. I believe Angle had a broken neck or, he needed surgery at some time, but he still went through with the match, just like he, wrestled and won that gold medal at Atlanta in 1996. Brock on the shooting star press, ended up getting a concussion, didn't know where he was, ended up fighting Jerry Briscoe backstage in a very funny story that's on the documentary. You actually get to see it as they're trying to get him into the ambulance to go to the hospital and get himself checked out. And he wants no part of it and basically has a stretcher match with an actual stretcher in the back. But this was a crowning moment for Brock Lesnar, even though he wouldn't be around in the WWF for much longer. He would wrestle a year until WrestleMania 20, basically crawling to the finish where he decided he wanted to quit and go play football for the Minnesota Vikings, which ended up not working out. And then I think he, from there, went and tried boxing, which ended up rolling over into him becoming a big-time UFC star before returning to WWE and what year would that be? 2012, after WrestleMania 28. So, honestly, when you look at this, pretty good Mania. It doesn't look like it's a spectacular card, but once you watch it, you really get that Mania feeling and that Mania magic, and you're like, damn, that was a fun show.